Hi, everyone. Welcome to Keepin It Real. This is a show dedicated to support women empowerment, offer career advice from industry professionals, advocate for social issues, and so much more. I'm Lauren Grenier, and today I'm joined by an amazing group to speak to how women can rise in the channel. My girl, Mayka.
And hi, everybody. My name is Mayka Rosales-Peterson, and I am co-moderating this panel today with Lauren, my girl. I love you.
Yes, I'm so excited.
And I am so ecstatic to be introducing these powerhouse men in the channel. These guys are incredible leaders in this space, and I'm sure many of you guys already know who they are, but I will go ahead and make an intro anyway. So we have Mr. Bruce Wirt, EVP and Chief Business Development Officer at Telesystem. Brandon Knight, Vice President of Contact Center at Telarus. And John DeLozier, Senior Vice President of Global Sales at 8x8. Welcome, guys. Thank you guys so much for doing this for us.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. This is a great cause.
This is awesome. So let's kick it off. So the first question I have for you guys, how have you guys advocated for women in the channel? I want to know, what have you guys done for other women in this space, and why should other women look at you guys and be like, I want to make him my friend?
Who do you want to go first? Do you want us to just jump in?
Oh, yeah. So we can do Bruce, Brandon, and then John.
All right. So for me, it's about giving people opportunities and then fighting behind the scenes. And thankfully, I don't have to do a whole lot of fighting behind the scenes at Telesystem. We're pretty progressive in that sense, and we're proactively looking to make sure that we have equal opportunities, equal pay, and everything that you'd want from an organization. I've been in leadership for almost the last 20 years, executive leadership for the last 15. I couldn't always say that, and that's not necessarily a negative on any one company. It's more, there's a lot of thoughts, and sometimes people don't even understand what they're thinking or what they're saying. So for me, it's about giving people opportunities, making sure that when I see talent, I'm able to identify that talent and coach my leaders under me to make sure that we're giving those talent opportunities, and then fighting to make sure that once that talent rises, we're not keeping that talent at a certain pay level that maybe others have access to hire. So for me, that's the way that I like to advocate.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think some of our backgrounds going to be a little bit similar in the sense of having been in leadership at larger companies, and it's interesting because I kind of came up in the contact center space where you do tend to see a lot more women involved in leadership, a lot more women involved in management, and but you still for a lot of the years you still seem to have what looked to be like the cap for how high they could go. Right, they were allowed, so to speak, to be supervisors and managers and maybe directors, but not necessarily viewed as being able to be operational vice presidents. When I was coming up. So part of it, I think, was just being in those conversations and being able to reward and sometimes even equip some of the women that worked for me to not necessarily change anything in them, but sometimes you have to make the people around them more aware. If that makes sense. So it wasn't really it wasn't always developing them. It was more or less developing a platform and kind of softening the ground so that they could excel. And I think I've done a good amount of that in my career in the contact centers, and working with exposure kind of gives me an opportunity to do even more of that going forward.
Yeah, that's a great point, Brandon. And my contact center background as well. I mean, definitely dominated by women. Not to be flippant about it, I think it's crazy we even have to have this discussion, right? For me, it's almost embarrassing. Like when you asked Mayka for me to jump in, it's so easy to say yes because first of all, I'm a dad of daughters. So I have a 23-year-old daughter that just graduated from University of Mississippi. I have a 22-year-old daughter that is a model in New York that you all have seen. And I'm married to an amazing business mind and woman that has fought her way up the food chain from day one. Fortunately, has decided to shut it down and be CEO of this household, but definitely a long career at Cisco and Metropolis and software, contact center, et cetera. For me, it's a lot of what the guys just said. I made it a very poignant, very specific, deliberate look into advancing the cause of women in our industry, in the channel specifically, and putting women in leadership positions on our team. We just think so differently, don't we? And not one is bad and one is good. It's just different. And I found that when you diversify the team, not just in culture, not just in all the things that we talk around with diversity, but you put an equal amount of men or women, or even an unequal amount, frankly, on my team, of women in places of power in those positions, we see a whole different aspect that we probably wouldn't have seen before. I generally have everybody that's worked for me knows, and all of the women that you'll talk to that have knows that I don't hire anybody that doesn't know their business better than me. And I don't have to be the smartest guy or on the team. I just want people around me that know it better. And I found, quite frankly, that in our industry, to Brandon's point around contact center, et cetera, there are so many women that have had to fight and claw and struggle and work their way up that hill. They put the time and effort in and done their homework, and they just know a whole lot more than most of the guys. So for me, it's a pretty easy decision.
John, I feel like that leads into my question that I have for you guys, and I'll bounce it back off John, and then we'll go to Bruce and Brandon. So what advice can you give women in this space who want to grow their careers?
Yeah, I think there's two things that I would say. The first is attitude is everything. It's already unfair. Just know it. The guys on this panel aren't the norm. There are a sea of men in power that think differently than we do, and quite frankly are probably intimidated by most women, which is crazy to think, but I believe I believe it to be true. So I think attitude is everything. The other thing is, and my wife Joanna taught me this, and I totally know this is true, is just out homework everybody. I found that I encourage everybody on my team to do this, but especially the ladies. I think genetically we're different, personalities we're different, et cetera. The skill sets we have are different. And I found that the women on my team will always out homework the men. That they'll wing it less and do their due diligence and cross the T's and dot the I's and come to those conversations with data and non-anecdotal information. And I would encourage that. It is an unfair playing field. Don't let nobody's going to be fooled in saying that it isn't. So therefore, you have to have an unfair advantage, Lauren. And I think truly doing your homework is a big, big part of that.
That's good. Bruce?
Sorry, I had to search for the unmute button. My dogs were going crazy upstairs, and I I didn't want that to come across. I just want to go back to something that John said about diversity in the front office. So, my long title is essentially the combination of the Chief Revenue Officer and the Chief Marketing Officer. So I have the front office, and what I like to say is our customers, whether they're agents or end users, come in all shapes and sizes, all races, all genders, all backgrounds. And if we don't have a diverse front office team, then we're not going to connect as well as we should connect with our customers and the people that we're trying to talk to. So it's deep in my heart and in the way I try to lead my organization to solve that problem and to make sure that we have all people of all backgrounds and all mindsets. In terms of device, and Mayka knows this because she works in my organization, my thing is always, when in doubt, own it. And I think that advice could be given to anybody. But I think that where people sometimes have challenges is when there's kind of something on the fence and they're not quite sure what to do about it or what to do with it. And my advice is always own it and seize it. And your talent will rise to the top when you do things like that. So I feel strongly about that. And I think the other thing I would say is when you have an opportunity or you want an opportunity, don't be afraid to ask for it. I think sometimes because of the way our society has conditioned things, women might be afraid to ask for an opportunity, or there might be an intimidation factor. And I think that the more that you ask, the more you're weakening those barriers that have been in place for years and years and years. So own it and then ask for opportunities that you feel like you deserve.
I like that.
I
like
do too.
that. Ask for opportunity. I like that. I think the advice for me kind of is, it's advice I've given myself over the years, and actually, I mean, being a minority in this space, you know, and I unfortunately in our situation, women are a minority in this space, you know. But I think JD pointed out something, and I wanted to elaborate on that, because it's my advice is understand that yes, you are behind 8 ball. Understand that the deck is stacked against you, but use that as motivation instead of a crutch. Don't let that be, well, you know, I couldn't do it, or like you said, ask for it, right? Sometimes we don't feel comfortable asking for things. We don't feel comfortable owning things. We don't feel comfortable standing up for ourselves because of the way things have been positioned. But I think it's my advice, I guess, to women would be to understand the situation, own the situation, but keep moving forward. You know, keep pushing, keep forcing. JD said that, you know, that the majority of people in leadership that you come in contact with are not going to be like the people on this panel, but that's more on them than it is on you. You know, I think the onus is on us to keep pushing them, make them uncomfortable, you know, if nothing else, you know, and I think that kind of stuff fuels change, you know. So I would say, and find allies. I mean, like the people that are on this panel, but there's more. Find allies. Sometimes, and I don't have to tell women this because, you know, y'all know the girlfriend code, right? But sometimes you got to deal with something in the face of it, and then you got to go call your girl, you know, and you got, you know what I'm saying?
Mayka.
That's right. So you gotta do that. You know, find your allies and use that as strength, so that you show the face you gotta show. Go, you know what I mean? Go get your comfort, and then come back at it. So that's my advice.
Good words, guys. I love it. I wrote a lot down there.
That was so good. So many things I already learned from here that I'm like, I need to go back and watch this. So, you know, in the channel space, I feel like women are always categorized in one specific view, like the booth bunny, or, you know, the woman that's just for people to look at. So what advice do you guys have for women that are always facing that stereotype in the channel? And, you know, what do you guys think about that? What advice do you guys have?
I'm gonna jump on this one first, just because
Brandon and John.
I gotta be really careful about how I do this, because
This is getting real. This is getting real.
We're keeping it real.
Yeah, this is definitely keeping it real. I gotta tell you really quickly, because this happened to me recently, and I can't say who it was, but I was at a business dinner with a supplier and some partners like 2 weeks ago. And one of the representatives from the supplier was this. There's no good way to say this, okay? But she was there because of what she looked like, and that was made extremely apparent as partners began to ask questions, and everything, you know, all of her answers filtered towards how she got her hair done and where she bought her clothes, and, you know, things that were not relevant to what they were trying to discuss. And a part of it, and I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but I think there's two sides to that. Okay, one side is obviously that's the role that she was put in, and she was there, and she mentioned it twice. So, you know, she mentioned about the, you know, men in tech, and so somewhere along the line someone had told her how to appeal to that, right? So she was unfortunately owning that. So it was uncomfortable for me on both sides, because she's in this position where she's doing what she thinks she's supposed to do to appeal to this audience, right? It didn't work. And you know, I reached out the next day to the leadership there because I feel like it's our responsibility. You know, someone put her in that role. Someone put her in that position. Someone prepped her for that. And it was important for me to let their leadership know that that's not how we play the game. You know, that's not what's expected at our organization. And so it's kind of weird because, like, I don't really want her to get in trouble. I want her to be coached, but I got to start with coaching the people who prepped her to do that, you know, because this used to be the industry of the booth babe. I mean, I was there. I went to the channel shows. I went to Vegas, and there were women in short skirts and scantily clad, and you know, they weren't there for their knowledge. And I mean, to me, it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing for women because we not just in our industry, our world looks at women are the only people on this planet, that are viewed aesthetically first, no matter what they're doing. You know, so it's a real, it's a challenging thing to overcome. But
well, Brandon, like, even when you speak to that, me individually, and I work so hard to not be recognized as in that effect when I am sitting at a table with senior leadership. So to hear that, now I have to work even harder to make up for the first, that type of conversation that's being had. So it's hard for me to hear because it's like, come on, we need to grow. We need to be in the same playing field, one day. But I just wanted to share. It's really, really sucky.
Well, it's hard because there's so many layers to it, right? Like you just said. Right. And quite frankly, like the gal that Brandon came into contact with, you know, those kind of women set you back. Like, that's not a good play for you. Like that immediately reinforces that negative layering that we want to pull back off of. By the way, just the same way that when I go on the road to conduct business, and I've done it many, many times with BK and others, you know, they're the guys trolling the bar that are married men or that are committed in relationships or maybe they're single, so what, whatever, that, you know, think that they've had a few drinks and they honestly think they're Brad Pitt, right? They think that they're Denzel, man. They think that they're showing up. You know, that truth serum's coming out in a real negative, false way. And it sets us back as a male executive. And I'm not comparing myself, believe me, to what you're facing as women. But it's very much a conversation. Yeah. I wish we could just strip it all down and say, let's just do what we do. Let's be judged on our talent. And of course, our ladies are going to dress to the nines. And of course, our guys are going to behave like they should. I wish it was just that simple, but it's not.
Right.
Bruce?
Yeah, I think these guys covered a whole lot, but I mean, my thing is also speak up. And I have the experience of my wife is also the chief executive of our home right now. But before we had small children, she worked in the channel, and you know, I got to watch because I know all the players, you know, and I know the inside scoop when she would have meetings and she would tell me who she's meeting with and what people were trying to mentor her. And my thing is speak up. Don't be afraid to call out what you're seeing and let the person know that you are there for a business transaction only. This isn't a lunch date. We're not going out on a dinner date. We are transacting business. And if you're there for something else other than the business arrangement that we're trying to do, and by the way, the business relationship can be wonderful and we can talk a lot, but it will never go beyond that. And I think women have to not be afraid that they will lose out on future opportunity because of things like that. And if they do, they should absolutely speak out because those people need to be called out. So
that's such a good point, Bruce. 100%. I feel like that's such a fear, though, because you want to be nice.
Right. You want to be nice. You don't want to be seen as the quote unquote B word, right?
Right. Because the reputation sticks with us, I feel, longer than it would for any guy because of the male dominated industry that we're in. It's a guy's world when they want to do that. But if I'm the one reacting and that's like talked to, which I have been part of that before, where I stood up actually and someone went off and started talking to other telecom guys, it was not okay with me. It's still not okay with me.
The one thing that Bruce just said made me think of this as well, and it's a practical thing. And again, embarrassing that I even got to mention it. But also, we all know that business does get done sometimes at these places after hours, and people will have too much to drink and get a little crazy.
John, I miss those times. COVID. I miss those moments.
Yes, all of us do. But I think that one practical thing too is always pair up with somebody, and somebody that you can trust. The guys that are not going to go there. You also know the guys that are going to stand up and say unacceptable, right? We don't do that. And so I think you just unfortunately have to think that way. There's just so many different scenarios that can go awry very quickly. So,
right. Yeah. Well, let me turn it around a little bit. I think this might be even the last question that we can fit in here. What women in the channel has most influenced you and why?
And then we're going to tag them all here so they can watch this. I'm just kidding.
I'm going to go first. But I'm going to steal one of actually JD's, and it's one of the reasons why, even though JD wasn't on the prep call, that I was glad he was part of this conversation, because he may or may not know this, but he's actually one of the people that I watch in leadership, because I think he's done an exceptional job, honestly, of being forward thinking in the women that he works with and hires and employs. And I will tell you right now. So I'm not remiss. I do have to tell you that I work with an absolutely amazing woman right now, in Amy, who runs our marketing department. So some of you guys know her, but I think she does an absolutely amazing job of what I call balance. Right? Amy's strong. She is beautiful. She is positive. She is all those things. And the fact that she's a woman is like irrelevant in interaction, and I love that. But I will have to say, over the years, John has a woman that works with him named Kathy. And Kathy, to me, Kathy Mazza is one of the most phenomenal women I've ever met, let alone in the channel. Her experience, the way she goes about work, the way she, we talk about, like he said, there's the events that we have to participate in, right? And there's the guys that drink too much. There's the guys that know how to drink, and there's all that. And I've been at numerous events with her and watched her handle all of that. I've watched her socialize and host the crazy people at nighttime and keep it balanced, keep them under control, and the next morning stand up and deliver, nail $1 million presentation, on deal closing. And so there's a lot of women like that. But yeah, there's a lot I've seen. But she's definitely one that I'm impressed with.
Bruce?
I'll keep this brief, but I actually have three, and for three very different reasons. So I couldn't, and she's not in the channel, but I couldn't not include my mother, because we grew up very poor. My parents were both together, but I spent a lot of time with my mother because my dad was in the Army for my early childhood, and she taught me never to judge anybody on the surface. Look behind the person. So I was that was indoctrinated in me from a very early part of my life, and it became part of the fabric of who I am. The second person is Nancy Ridge, who when I learned about it was first called Women in the Channel, and I had a group of female channel managers. Nancy went out of her way to help them be successful. And I always encourage, and Mayka knows this, when I do have a female channel manager or somebody under my care, no matter what position they are, I encourage them to join, and most importantly, to reach out to Nancy. But I'm going to go a little off maybe the script of the question, but somebody who really, I guess, where the question was influenced, but in a very different way. I hired Maureen O'Connell, who a lot of you might know. She's the director of partner sales at Comcast. and I hired her out of the Verizon call center, essentially. And I watched her grow, and I watched her do everything that we talked about. She sees every opportunity. She knew when somebody was trying to get her in a position that she didn't want to be in, and she was very good at skillfully fighting that person off, but also keeping it down to business and then going out and earning the business as well and building relationships. And I use her as an example of somebody that has I watched grow from the very entry level position into one of the highest positions in the game. And she's just such a great example for women to follow. And just the way she conducts herself, I think, is just amazing. And she's an inspiration, and I continue to follow her career and be very excited for what she's doing.
That's awesome.
Wow, those are great answers. Pulling your mom into it, Bruce. How can I not throw out a shout out?
How do you not do that?
Susie DeLozier, you're shaming me.
He did kind of one up us with the whole mom thing.
Love you, Mom. For me, there's a couple different answers. One, we mentioned earlier, we were talking about, joking a little bit about our wives. My wife and I got married 5 years ago, and we have 5 kids between us. So for me, 3 homemade, 2 takeout. And I got to tell you, we came to that decision point in our industry, in our channel, in our business, who was going to stay home and manage this household. I'm like, I'll do it. It's me. You stay out there, do your thing. She said you couldn't handle it. And she was right, of course. So, Joanna Farrow DeLozier, amazing example to me of somebody as a single mom that worked her way up the food chain and killed it both at Arrow and then Cisco, and made a huge name for herself, and lots of history in our industry. I'm surprised, Lauren and Mayka, that you guys don't know each other. But for me, I'm going to go Janet Shines. Janet, she owns JS Consulting now. You know her as EVP and head of global channel at Verizon, and then off to Office Depot, now JS Consulting Group, which I do a lot of work with, etc. Janet will tell a story that's always humbling for me. When we first met, she was one of those gals that were climbing the food chain and making a name for herself, and got stuck in one of those sticky situations. And I came, put my arm around her and said, "Come on, I got you." And the rest is history. Of course, great friends with her husband and wife as well. But I would say Janet is a person that I think all of us can emulate, not just the young ladies, but men and women alike. So I'm gonna go with Janet.
That's awesome. Well, Lauren, do you have anything else?
I feel like since Bruce mentioned his mom, I should get to say one more thing. Only because I think as we endeavor to move women forward, and we talk about the great women, I think we also should mention, JB mentioned it, and that is the responsibility we have of bringing up the next generation. And I do have, I am lucky to be married to a dual CEO, because she's the CEO of this home, but she's also the CEO of her own company. And we're raising 4 daughters who I am proud to say get to watch her be both. They get to watch her be mom, they get to watch her run her business, and they get to watch her, God bless her, be my wife. Because that's, we all know that's not easy. But I think that just like we talk about softening the ground in the corporate world, I think us bringing up women that are prepared to go in and push a little bit more, raise the envelope a little bit more, challenge a little bit more is equally as important.
Let me just add that Mayka and Lauren, the first thing that I did with my daughter, who's a graduate, no matter what industry she ends up in, this is truth. Women mentioned on this call, she's already talking to. Not so much to get a job. Amy Bailey and her, Brandon, I think, are talking today. My daughter, Abby. Abby has time set up with Janet. Kathy Mazza, who Brandon mentioned earlier, I found her as an account manager working in a big group in my former life and pulled her out of it because I knew she had it. Tina Smith, our head of marketing here at 8x8, I watch her all the time. So I want to reiterate what he just said. And Bruce, I know you agree. There is a responsibility here for Bruce and Brandon and me. And, to continue find those ladies that want to take it to the next level. And it's a big responsibility. We have to take it serious.
Yeah, and I just want to give Bruce a huge thank you, because he has been my sponsor and my guide towards my career. I know I came to him when I was just entry level, and I'm like, hey, I want to be able to grow. How can I get there? And Bruce he took me under his wing, and he promoted me, and he continues to help me along the way. So thank you, Bruce. I just want to tell you thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I know you're tired of hearing it.
Every time she does that, I tell her that it's her own talent and it has nothing to do with me.
No, but we do need men like this, like you, Brandon and John, to help elevate the next generation and, the next leaders in this space. So I just want to thank you and thank all of you guys for being part of this panel. I'm so excited for what women are going to listen to. This is going to be great.
I know. This is, I feel, a conversation piece that it's not just going to be a one-time listen, especially for me. I think it's going to be a great reminder when I am feeling challenged to a space that I'm getting probably no's or not getting recognized or being on that shelf. So it's good to kind of go back to this, listen to what you guys have to say. Echoing Mayka, male leaders have helped me grow. I wouldn't be where I am today without them, but I am also happy to be surrounded by lots of strong women to get to where I am. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time and working with us on this.
And until next time, this is Keeping It Real.
Keeping it real. I like keeping it real.
Keep it real.
Keeping it real.
Bye, Mom.